Ready? You ready? Okay. I'd like to bring this special council meeting to order. This is our first budget meeting. And before I call on Manoj and our Director of Finance, Maria Morrow, I just want to say, as you know, and it's in the binder, I didn't exercise strong mayor powers because I wanted to maintain the successful budget strategy we've used every year, where staff puts together an outstanding package and council makes the decision on the final budget. And the next day or 2 days, whatever it takes, we'll have plenty of input and questions asked and answered. So as you know, the work that went in and the hours and the heavy lifting by staff to get in at a number that's palatable, I think, which is 3.49. And my personal opinion is that we should not go any higher on that number, but that's council's decision, because I think that that's a very, how can I say it, responsible number based on what we're doing and what the ask is. So I'll turn it over to our Oh, excuse me, before that, I gotta bring the land acknowledgement, and I'll call on Councillor Sentence.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The city of Thorold is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Haudenosaunee, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The city of Thorold stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any declarations of interest? Seeing none, adoption of the agenda. Can I get a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda? I got Councillor Sentence and Councillor D'Angelo. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Presentation, opening remarks, and I'll call on Manoj Dalwaria, our CAO, for opening remarks regarding the 2026 budget.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, members of council, and welcome to the 2026 budget meeting. You are provided with the budget binders in advance, and I trust you have had the opportunity to review it. As in previous years, I will begin with a brief overview of the draft budget. This evening, staff will be presenting the draft operating and capital budgets for council's consideration. The water and urban service area budgets will be brought forward at a later date, consistent with past practice. As you are aware, the city has experienced significant growth over the past several years. Development continues throughout the community, and we remain focused on managing that growth in a sustainable and responsible manner. For the 2026 budget, staff were directed to achieve a net levy increase of 3.5%. Senior staff from across the organization worked collaboratively to prioritize service needs and balance competing pressures. This was an iterative process, as the initial projections reflected a double-digit tax increase. Through careful review and cross-departmental discussions, staff were able to bring forward the balanced draft budget before you this evening. It is important to note that despite recommendations from the organizational review approved by Council in 2023, which identified the needs of additional staff, no new positions have been included in the 2026 budget, consistent with the last year's approach. These positions, however, are included in the deferred section. The draft budget reflects a net levy increase of 3.49%, comprised of 1.42% for infrastructure and 2.07% for departmental operations. This translates to an increase of $64 on the city portion of the tax bill for an average home assessed as $281,100 based on the 2016 MPAX assessment. For context, the city experienced a growth of 4.65% in 2025. As a reminder, the city's portion represents about 39% of the total residential tax bill. The remaining about 61% is comprised of the urban service area levy, hospital levy, regional levies, and the educational levy. The overall tax impact will be finalized when the region confirms its tax ratios and rates. In accordance with this evening's agenda, following my remarks, Ms. Maria Moro, Director of Finance, will provide a detailed budget overview. Council will then proceed to the departmental operating budgets, followed by discussion of any items brought forward from the deferred list. Council then move into deliberation on the capital budget. Department and division heads are present this evening and will be available to respond to any questions from Council. I would like to sincerely thank all staff involved in the preparation of this budget. In particular, I wish to thank Ms. Morrow and her team for their dedication and extensive work in preparing the comprehensive budget package that is before you. At this time, I will turn the floor to Ms. Morrow to begin her presentation.
And then, so Maria, I'll call on you now for an overview of the 2026 budget.
Okay, welcome to Budget 2026. It's not changing. What now? Go. Okay, I guess it's not good. The city issues tax bills which encompass not only the city, but the regional and education taxes as well. For 2025, the city general budget taxes represented about 38% of the total bills across all property classes, with the bulk of the taxes relating to region and education. The city has 4 budgets: the general operating budget, the capital budget, which form part of this package, and the water and urban service area, which is sanitary, sewer, and sidewalk budgets, which will be addressed later this quarter. The total estimated budget for the city from all of these is $113 million. With new construction development, new infrastructure is required. The new construction brings in more people, be it residents, tourists, or employees. The increase in infrastructure and people will increase the demands for service, which will in turn increase our operating expenditures. The demand for service starts with planning, moves to building department as the developments occur, and eventually this filters down to and requires increases to all departments to service the established developments. For example, snow plowing, grass cutting, water sewer, road, street light, maintenance, bylaw, fire services, capital renewal, provisions and maintenance, billing and administrative function. It should be remembered that growth dollars may be received up front and are cumulative. Once critical mass is achieved, then additional costs for staffing and equipment must be incurred to maintain services. Our growth over the past number of years has been significant, with a 58% increase in weighted assessment from 2016 to 2026. In order to review staffing levels to service the growth, Council directed that an organizational review be undertaken to develop a staffing optimization plan. This was completed in 2023 by the external group Deloitte. They noted that the city's growth created work that cannot be completed by existing staffing levels. Deloitte had recommended 24 immediate new positions. To mitigate the budget increase, staff included only 21 new positions in Budget 2024. The org review further recommended an additional 8 positions to be hired in 2025-2026, with staff requesting an additional 2 positions over and above this. As indicated by the CAO, all 13 positions were deferred. To provide some reference, 1% levy change equates to about $245,000, and a 1% net levy change equates to about $18 to the average residential home, valued at $281,100. and those are 2016 MPAC valuations. For funding, there is an interrelationship between all the various sources, in that a reduction in one area must be funded from the other areas, and normally this lands onto property taxes. This chart shows the funding options for both capital and operational expenses. Some of the items, such as grants and investment income, are beyond our control, so we need to consider the other areas that we can control so that the burden is not totally loaded onto property taxes. While reserve funding for ongoing operating expenses does occur, it is a very short-sighted move, and it really isn't a best practice, as it's not sustainable and merely transfers the impact to future budgets. The net levy budget as presented amounts to roughly $26.4 million, with transportation, including winter control, along with fire expenses, amounting to 45% of the total gross expenditures. The package provides information on the specific impacts by department, but I'd like to provide you with a high-level summary of some of the major impacts. Salary, benefits, and honoraria costs for the proposed budget represent about 48% of the gross expenditures in the draft operating budget. Impacts come from increases to wages and benefits for existing approved staffing, to cover contractual increases, step increases, and statutory and health benefits. Offsets to the levy are provided with reserve funding and building funding. The next impact that I'd like to highlight is asset renewal. This chart demonstrates how we are progressing in the ability to sustain our non-water and sewer assets. Please note that these are annual estimated totals. The green bar is the current budget provision. The yellow bar is the amortization expense based on historical costs, and the red bar is where we need to be on an annual basis to maintain our assets based on their replacement costs. Our asset management plans are complete, with an update required in 5 years. They show that we need an annual additional $11.4 million per year to fully fund our assets. You can see that we are not funding sufficiently in any of the categories, and this will worsen over time if we don't keep pace with inflation and the acquisition of new assets. Sustaining our assets is an area that we must continue to address. Asset renewal funding ensures that we're able to proceed to repair and replace assets in a timely fashion without a significant impact to the levy. To address the shortfall, a 12-year phase-in plan has been adopted. We have included the full phase-in value as outlined in the asset management plan based on 2023 valuation. However, the impact from inflation and the assumption of assets in new subdivisions along with new buildings has and will continue to increase the shortfall and funding requirements. For 2026, inflation and the assumption of the new fire hall and the municipal operations center meant that this amount should have been $134,000 higher than what we've included in the budget. This was deferred to stay within the target, so the net impact to the levy was $815,000. There were a number of internally financed projects that will be paid off in 2026. As well, a number of new projects have been added in 2026 proposed capital budget that will require internal financing. The total impact to the levy is approximately $210,000. A number of expenditures for services will see changes in the budget levels required, such as IT hardware and software contracts, the engagement of grant writing consultants, legal fees, radio maintenance fees, audit, and other contracted services. The levy impact is a net increase of $155,000. With respect to grants, we provide a grant to the library for which they've requested an increase of $61,000 or 7.1%. In addition, the city has entered into fee-for-service agreements with the Senior Center and the TCAG. The budget provides for payments and increases to these groups directly in accordance with the established agreements. The Hospice Niagara grant is fully paid off, and this amount will be transferred to general grants. The grant to the Historical Society Museum is proposed for a reduction of $40,000, as is the reserve transfer. The net impact here is $85,700. The Community Improvement Plan and Development Charge Smart Growth Grants for 2026 will require a $1.2 million increase. Reserve funding is recommended to mitigate the impact. However, further impacts will occur in future years. Three city-run events are included in the budget. The Santa Claus Parade with a $63,000 total expenditure envelope, which represents an increase of $8,000 with an offset in sponsorship revenues. The Canada Day event with a total budget of $115,000 will see no change in expenditures, but a grant decrease offset by a reserve transfer from carry-forward amounts. Lastly, farmers market expenditures have been increased by $25,000 to $55,000, with funding increase from sponsorship and reserve transfers from carry-forward amounts. Overall, no impact to the levy. A number of other expenditures will see changes in the budget levels required, such as insurance, utilities, uniforms and coveralls, materials and supplies, and repairs and maintenance. The levy impact is a net increase of $42,000. The net operating expenses for Canada Games Park are forecast to increase by $18,000. However, both unsold ice and subsidy budgets have been reduced for an overall levy reduction of $22,000. Other expenses for election, inaugural, and volunteer recognition are provided for in the budget with offsetting reserve funding for no impact to the levy. Investment income revenues are budgeted to decrease by about $88,000 due to an increase in capital expenditures and the decline in the interest rate market. Supplemental taxes continue to increase due to growth in the city. Tax interest and penalty is also forecast to increase. Both of these last two items are areas that may pose a risk to budget in future if growth declines or if tax arrears level decline. The net benefit to the levy is $363,000. Fee and fine-related revenues are forecast to decrease overall, with planning revenue seeing the biggest decline. The Bell project has been completed and the revenues are eliminated, along with the expenditures for the Bell project also eliminated. Increases are projected for bylaw, residential licensing, marriages, committee of adjustment, and other revenues. The total levy impact is $133,500. The report includes listings which total $36.2 million in reductions and deferrals, and reserve funding that has been utilized to reduce the levy impact. $1.3 million in staffing costs, with 11 positions deferred from the recommendation of the org review, plus another 2 positions requested by staff due to increasing workload. The positions are needed, but have been deferred to meet the levy target. In addition, we were forced to reduce the capital renewal contribution along with funding the Smart Growth Grant from reserves. Capital projects deferred totaled $33.5 million, with the major ones highlighted on the slide. Again, the presence of any items on the list does not mean that staff are supportive of the reductions or that the items are not needed, merely that the overriding factor was levy impact. Council can review the deferral list as part of your deliberations. The draft operating budget as presented reflects a 2.07 net departmental increase and a 1.42 net infrastructure levy increase after growth of 4.65%. The total levy increase is 3.49%. For the residential class, the average home will see a $64 increase from the city's general budget. This represents a 1.31% increase to the overall tax bill. 2026 is the last year for the hospital levy, and the accumulated reserve will reduce the amount required. This translates into a $12 reduction for 2026, and it will be fully eliminated for another $12 in 2027. We have yet to see the final tax ratio policy from the region. Based on existing tax ratios for the residential class, the average home will see a $64 increase from the city's general budget due to the increase in assessment base and a freezing of the urban service area levy. Along with the reduction in the hospital levy, we anticipate a reduction of $17 for the USA and hospital levies. Overall, combined, this represents $47 or a 1% increase to the average residential overall tax bill. At this point, the region has yet to approve their general budget. However, based on their existing 6.37% draft increase, which was announced today, and estimates for transit and waste, for indicative purposes only, impacts from the region are estimated at $138 or 2.8% to the overall residential bill. No impact from education rates. At this point, pending regional approval of budgets and tax ratios, the total estimated impact at this point is $185 or 3.8%. Okay, well, this is interesting. Anyways, we have a very, we have a very aggressive total capital budget for new capital works of $53.2 million, with the majority relating to community services in yellow, recreational, community services, recreational and facilities projects, followed by infrastructure projects for transportation and water, sewer. There are carry-forward projects valued at $33.9 million for a total project slate of $87 million. So just to, the yellow is community services, the red is fire, other is a small sliver in blue, the green is transportation, and the blue is water and sewer. And apologies, that didn't print properly. The major projects that we have included in the capital works are listed herein and encompass many of the projects that have been requested by council during the year. Over the next 10 years, we estimate capital project works of $188 million. And again, it should be noted that this is merely a forecast and not a firm commitment on the timing of projects. Council prioritizes projects on an annual basis. The report also identifies that total capital funding gap that the city faces over the next 10 years is estimated at about $44 million, which will require the need to issue debt and incur debt servicing costs in our annual budgets, less any grants or fundraising that we are able to garner. We need to remain cognizant of this today as projects are approved, as this may impact on our ability to proceed in the future. We need to ensure that as we prioritize projects and make decisions, that we take a long-term view. The city's presently very well positioned from a debt standpoint, with only $152,000 outstanding projected at the end of 2025, and this relates entirely to City Hall. This will be fully paid off in 2026, and for 2027, this will free up $157,000 in debt servicing, which can be transferred over to capital renewal funding. The city in 2011 committed $5.7 million towards the new hospital. We levied $298,000 per year as a separate levy on the tax bill. The final hospital levy is due in 2026, with hospital reserve balance available to reduce the amount required from taxes. Again, in 2027, this levy will be fully eliminated. In addition, we have financed a number of capital projects internally from reserve cash balances with payback over a number of years, totaling $12.1 million to the end of 2025. We will add approximately $16 million for 2026, with the bulk of the payback coming not from the levy, but from grants, donations, crypto niche sales, and rental income. It should be noted that with dwindling reserves, our ability to finance internally is reduced, and future projects may require issuance of external debt. This depicts our reserve position excluding hydro. While we have an estimated combined available balance of $61 million projected at the end of 2025, in reality, the bulk of the holdings are in development charges, water and sewer, restricted or legislated reserve funds. Available balances for operating and capital are estimated at $13.3 million. We will see a huge decline of $28.4 million in reserves for budget 2026, with the bulk of the decline in the development charges recreational account, with the planned turf field and playground and splash pad expansion into various parks. Reserve erosion may solve an issue in the current year's budget, but will likely negatively impact on future budgets. In addition, the historic levels of in-year overruns is not sustainable, and we may need to consider scaling down or canceling projects. For hydro, the projected interest is $524,000, with the utilization proposed for 2026 directed to debt servicing City Hall, capital asset transportation, and capital asset general provisions. The support to capital funding from the levy is 2.1%. Since 2001, hydro interest has provided capital levy support of $14 million. We do have a number of risks and opportunities that may lead to positive or negative variances to the 2026 result that we need to be cognizant of. Revenue and expense projections, any in-year overruns or emergencies, these can all lead to negative variances. New grant programs requiring municipal contributions, and general revenue and expenditure estimates can be higher or lower than budget. Staff would respectfully suggest that it should be the budget that establishes service levels, and that in-year overruns and adjustments should be limited to emergencies, uncontrolled items, or grant programs, and not to introduce new programs, projects, or services. Of note, our overruns have averaged $2.7 million per year based on the past 5-year history. This is a suggested process that has worked well in the past. Council is able to ask questions or bring forward any item in each of the sections. Any changes to the draft budget are voted on by council as you go through the 3 sections. These items can be reconsidered at the end of the budget process immediately prior to the final adoption of the budget. This ensures that we differentiate between general discussion and changes, which are formalized and recorded in the minutes. And this concludes my presentation.
Thank you for the very thorough presentation, Maria. And before we move into the suggested process that's laid out here, are there any questions for our Director of Finance? Okay.
Oh, Terry, sorry.
Do you have a question before we go?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Maria, could I just get you to go back?
I can't hear you.
Oh, can I, through you, Mr. Mayor, could I just go back to page 21 for a second? I just had a question. Can- It's all right. Maria, I can come back to that later. It's not, I can come back to it.
Okay. Counselor?
Yeah, I can come back to it later.
Okay.
Yeah, no, no worries.
Okay. Now I'm gonna, go ahead, Ken.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just to Maria, so the 249, is that about an average of what happens yearly as far as lost tax interest? and penalty?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's actually a net benefit. We're actually increasing the tax interest and penalty by $249,000.
Gotcha, okay. And then can you run up to page 33? Thank you for clarifying that. Okay, now, that decline in 28.4 million, do we ever get any of that back, or no, that's gone?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, this is sort of point in time. You will see that, like what we've done is you can see the biggest decline is in development charges. We have made an assumption on how much we expect to collect. So, you know, you've got your net inflow from your collections, and then you've got funding a lot of the recreational projects coming out. In future years, as you continue to collect development charges or water sewer, then it will increase, but keep in mind that you'll also have requirements to fund.
Okay. Thank you, and just one more, page 35 for a second. Yeah, this really concerns me. So that's the average for the last 5 years, so, of overruns, correct?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct.
I'm not happy about that, but I'm glad you pointed that out. I'll discuss that later when I speak on it, but thank you. Thank you for the information. Great presentation, yeah. Thank you.
Go ahead, Councilor D'Angelo.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of questions on the presentation.
And,
Yeah, it's on slide 6. It was the MPAC evaluation date. It's 2016. I know we had a presenter coming here to look at how we can move that along. Has there been any further indication by MPAC when they're gonna reassess that? That's like 10 years ago in terms of valuating properties.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no. We've got no information on when they're
At
gonna do it.
MPAC. Okay, so we're just dealing with 10-year-old data, unfortunately. Okay.
And that's a directive that'll come from the province to MPAC. MPAC's waiting for the province to enact that change.
Well, they've been waiting for 10 years, so.
Oh, yeah.
that's, okay, that, and then the other question I had was on slide 15, the grants. You mentioned the museum or historical society museum's down 40,000. What was it? So what was it last year, and what is it this year that's encapsulated in the budget?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, last year it was 50,000, and this year it's 10.
50, okay, 50 and 10. And I don't know if you have any further information. Are they applying for summer students or grants? Because I think part of the amount that we gave them last year related to matching of grant. Not aware of it? Okay.
I'm not aware.
All right. And just the final question is on the presentation, is again, slide 35, where the budget overrun of 2.7 million. Do you have a breakdown of what is capital and what is operational budget overruns? Is that something you have handy, or?
I don't have the breakdown. I would suspect that most of it is capital, but I'd be pleased to, you know, at a later date, provide you with a breakdown.
If you can, there's no
Yep.
rush on
Yep.
that. Thank you. Those are my questions on the presentation. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Councillor O'Hare, and then I'll get over here. Don't worry. Yeah. Go ahead, Councillor O'Hare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to our CFO. First off, I just want to say congratulations to you and your team. To our CEO, this is a lot of work. You can see it, anyone who spends the time going through the budget binders. It's really, really remarkable what you put together. I'd like to return to that page 35 just for some clarification on the budget overrun. So the 5-year average being 2.7 million, does that take into account that some years there are some gains? Or is it just throughout the year, this is what the overrun was without the
Mr. Mayor,
gains?
this is just the overruns.
Right, right. So in other words, in some years, there may be no, they may balance out, they may not be as harsh.
Through Mr. Mayor, I don't think we've ever had a surplus of 2.7, but yeah, there are years where
Okay.
the overall will be reduced by the
Great.
surplus.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Sentence.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, everyone. Good job. Appreciate all the hard work. That was my question. I know we usually kind of balance out at the end, not, you know, I know that number's real, but with savings and stuff like that, so, good, thank you.
Is there anyone else before we move to operating? Okay, seeing none, thank you for that once again, Maria, but you're not done answering questions, I'm sure. And now we're going to move on to the operating budget as presented. Questions?
So you'd be moving and seconding, mover and seconder for the report, put it on the floor. I can share my screen.
Yeah, go ahead. Okay, so can I get a mover and a seconder to put DF2 2026 budget 2026 on the floor? I got Councillor O'Hare and Councillor Didavides. We don't vote on it yet.
No.
It's just on the floor, and now you see it in front of you. We're gonna deal first with the operating side. Everybody can see the package, the way it's laid out. There's operating side, there's deferrals, and then there's capital. So I will proceed as laid out by our Director of Finance, that we'll deal with operating first. Is there any questions to staff or regarding the operating budget?
That helps explain it.
Okay, so this is the time to ask.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
Mr.
Go
Mayor,
ahead.
sorry.
Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question on the operating budget. The actual first section on operating budget is for significant changes summary, which is our existing staffing, okay?
Yeah,
I just wondered if the Director of Finance could explain why we're using $209,000 in reserve funding to fund staff wages.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, this relates to adjustments where it was addressed in camera. At that point, staff did present the funding strategy to spread the impact over 2 years as a phase-in, and this is why we've used the reserve funding for this year.
Counselor?
Yes, good. I appreciate that answer, Director of Finance. I didn't want to, I didn't know if I'd get in trouble to say that it was a discussion in camera. That's why I wanted to see if a staff member would do that for me. That's good. My concern here, well, Mr. Mayor, I just want to make sure I don't divulge anything in camera that I wasn't supposed to. I just want to go back to this because the Director of Finance in her presentation did mention that spending from reserves is not sustainable, it's not recommended, and it just moves the impact of future to future budget years, and that's what concerns me about this. The will of council was to go in this direction. I didn't support it at the time because we were using reserves, and I'm just concerned that we're using reserves to move forward to pay staff wages, especially. I don't think it's the right way to do it, but that's just my opinion. I just wanted to make it aware that I can't support moving in that manner with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Is there anyone else that wants to speak on an item, add an item, withdraw an item? This is where you're doing it on the operating side, okay? Yeah?
He's just going one by one.
No, I'm not going
From the council's perspective.
No. Okay. Go ahead, Counselor O'Hare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I'd like to add an item if council approves. I'd like to request an amount of $25,000 for the Thorold Center 50 plus. And the reason for that is that the Center 50 Plus has become the victim of their own success. They just continue to grow beyond belief. It's not what they expected when they began operations, and they're a wee bit overwhelmed with the work that's required. And so the money that I'm requesting is to help assist with the clerical work and the bookkeeping that has grown tremendously in the 50 Plus Center. And I know that it's 0.1% of the levy, a very small amount, but I'm hoping that perhaps we can find another source, maybe from reserves, to top up their budget and assist them for this year. We know of all the great work that they've been doing, of all the success stories we're hearing, the people they're feeding, the whole social climate that's out there for our seniors. It's just wonderful. So I'm going to ask and put a motion on the floor that, or perhaps I should ask the CFO first, where we could possibly find this money to assist them.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, echoing Councillor Longo's comments, this is, I don't think we want to go too far down this path with reserve funding of continuing operating expenses. If this is a direction council wants to go, I'd suggest you look at some of the grants, you know, perhaps the ones that have increased substantially, you know, library, the general grant funding, some of the events, farmers market, Santa Claus parade.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think I thank you for your advice there, but I think the grants are already spread quite thinly. This is just a top-up to alleviate some of the pressure that they're feeling, and I'm hoping that this smaller amount can be processed either through the levy, which I understand we don't want to increase, but for this year alone, and then it be worked into the budget as a dip into the reserves.
To the Director of Finance, just a question to clarify in my own mind. This transfer of hospice to grant funding of $18,416. If we utilize that, would that allow us to utilize that, but then it wouldn't go into extra grant funding? Am I correct if I say
That's
that?
correct, Mr. Mayor.
So we could utilize it, but then it's not going in the pot to increase the grant fund?
That's right, and that was the intent, is to increase the general grant, but certainly that would be an option.
Okay. So, first of all, do you have a seconder for your motion? You got Councillor Decker.
Do we want to clarify the wording of it, how it'll be funded
Well,
first?
so how is it gonna get, what are you looking for? How is it getting funded before, so council can speak on that before we move forward?
Okay, so I like your idea, Mr. Mayor, the 18,000, if that's possibly potentially an avenue that can be utilized, and then the difference of 7,000 from reserves, that's a very small amount.
Well, that's going into reserves now, which is not what was recommended by the Director of Finance. Would you be okay just to use the 18,000 and cut it there and let council decide if that's what they want to do?
Well, I certainly would be if you make it payable to me.
I'm just trying
Yeah.
to work through this.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's going to be council that's
Yep.
going to make.
Yeah, I think we could work with that. Perhaps throughout the evening, there might be other options, so I'll keep my ears open and see if something else opens up, but 18,000 would certainly come in handy.
So what you're asking then, and you had a seconder with Councillor Decker, is to utilize the 18,415, rather than transfer it to grant funding, utilize it for the seniors grant. Am I correct with that?
That's correct,
So
Mr.
there'd
Mayor.
be no impact on the levy, okay? And so that's the motion, that's a seconder. It's open now for debate with the council, okay? Go ahead, Councillor DeAngelo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last year, we put some money aside in the reserve for doctor recruitment. I can't recall the number. I think it was like 60,000.
300,000, sorry.
How much?
There's
300,000.
300,000 for doctors' recruitment, which I can tell you very shortly, there'll be some take-up on that.
Well, again, I was opposed to it last year. We need to get back to the basics when we do our budgets here at the municipal level. Doctor recruitment shouldn't be a municipal level funded activity. That should be either the region or the province that should be doing that. So we're just making our taxpayers pay more for services that someone else in the government level should pay for. That's where I would see part of this going to the seniors. The other one
But that money is just sitting in reserves. It was never touched, and that was earmarked in last year's budget for.
Yes.
Okay? Just so you
fully
know.
I understand that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
I'm quite versed in budgeting. I've been doing it all my life. But I do see value in putting stuff aside, and I see value of taking it out when it shouldn't be really funded by us. So there's where I see that reserve money coming out and being used for activities. And I know there's a difference between annual and one-time fixes, but we have to start somewhere in terms of trying to fix some of the issues that we have. And I would like to see that additional money go to the seniors to top it up. And the other one is, I'll talk about it at a later date because it doesn't affect this motion, but so at this point in time, I guess I'll support the 18,000, but I think there's venues of getting it to the right amount that's being requested. But unfortunately, like I said, people have
That's the
difference of
motion on
opinions.
the floor,
Yep.
okay?
Thank you.
Anyone else want to speak to that? Okay? Okay, all those in favor? And that's opposed, that is carried, okay? So that, right now, does not affect the levy, that is a transfer that is going to there. Okay, so now, anything else? Go ahead, Councilor.
I just had one comment, Mr. Mayor. I'm very pleased that we're adding the splash pad in the budget into Beaver Dams Park. It's a crown jewel, and we're using the assets that we have instead of making new ones. So we're spending the money wisely, and that's going to affect the whole community, and it's going to be a great success having that there. So I'm very pleased seeing that going forward.
Thank you, and that's gonna be under, that's a capital though, but I'll take that calm. Anyone else on the operating? Okay, so now I'm gonna move into the deferrals, okay, before we move into the capital. Go ahead, Councillor
Sentence.
I lost you for a
That's
second.
all right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, if Chief Dixon could help me out, I'm looking at the $11,000 for the fire station number 4 tankless hot water boilers, and if you could help me explain why they're necessary, I would appreciate it.
Yes, through you, Mayor. The hot water tanks were obviously installed at Station 4 in 2001 to 2003 when the place was built. There's currently 2 on-demand hot water tanks in the truck bays. One is currently not working, so the other one has to supply for the rest of the building on its own. It's actually quite inefficient. What we're trying to do is complete our decontamination program for firefighters, and that results in, after every vehicle fire, any type of major fire that they're involved in, they're there to shower before they get in their personal cars and go back home. So it's causing us some grief that way, but I also understand we're trying to come in within budget here. So, but it's definitely something that we need to get repaired.
And I appreciate that. So I was contacted by some people for this as a necessity. So I talked to Maria as well, and I don't know where council would like to after our, reserve discussion, but it's $11,000 for something I think they really need. So that's my only one ask, was to get that into budget. Maria, where would you?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, as a one-time capital, I'd recommend municipal land and building reserve.
Okay. I'd like to put that forward as a
Do
motion.
we have a seconder for that? I've got Councillor Ditavitas. Anyone want to speak to that?
Can Maria I couldn't understand what she just said, where the money's coming from. Sorry, thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
As a capital item, one time, we'd suggest municipal land and building reserve fund.
And I'll ask you, are you good with that?
Through Mr. Mayor, well, at $11,000, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we had that. We had a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Anyone else have anything? I have one item, but I'll go last. Go ahead, Councillor DeAngelo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to speak on it because it's been moved to the deferral. It's McMillan Park Field Number 2 partnership project with the Thorold High School. I understand it's been deferred because there hasn't been a real lot of activity on behalf of the school board. It's a committee I've sat on, and I've been trying to get this moving quite rapidly because there was a lot of discussion in how to use the lower part of McMillan Park. We came up with a good solution, but we're just not moving forward with this at this point in time. I understand that, but I want the public to know that it's not city council that's ever slowing this process down. It's always the school board. It's the school and the school board. So if you're going to start pointing fingers at anyone, point them at the other direction and try to get them to move this along. We're doing our best. We've come up with different proposals throughout this process. It's a good committee that's working diligently with our director of operations and trying to get this resolved. And they seem to always be bogged down in either board level, staff level, whatever level. But, we want to get this done. We want to get that area, improve the pond, and come up with a really good plan. We're willing and we're able to do it, but we're getting pushback or no activity. So I just want to put that out there because it says council tends to always get the negative comments towards that, but it's not us that's slowing this process.
Good point, good point. Happy you brought it forward.
Thank you.
Go-
And just on that point, so that's why I'm glad we've moved forward with our own artificial surface so that we can give our community what it deserves and needs, just because this process hasn't moved along. So I'm very glad that we're moving in a good direction there. Thank you.
Thank you. I got Councillor Thorold.
Just want to make a comment and maybe a question to Mr. Holman. Since we're building our own turf field, do we actually need to get involved in that anymore? I just think we've got a different perspective now. What's your take on it?
Through Mr. Mayor, the discussion we had with DSBN back in July kind of led us to believe that they were interested in a partnership that would bring some capital dollars through some type of lease arrangement that doesn't necessarily create an artificial turf field, but use the existing space just a little bit more cost effectively to allow them to do some of their programming through their school activities, but still create a great amenity space for the community to use after hours. And I think we're still on that path. We just haven't been able to get any traction working with DSPN.
Okay, thank you. Is it a turf field you're referring to? The area they want to utilize, the lower part of McMillan, is it a turf field as well?
No, it'll be a
Grass.
natural grass
Okay.
field.
Thanks for that clarification.
Okay. Councillor Didavides, did you have your hand up?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And then
This is
I'm gonna go
regarding
to
that turf,
Councillor Longo.
the turf field for the Thorold High. We are trying to work with them. I'm on the committee, so is Mr. Longo there. We are trying to work with them. It was a shaky start because there's some bad blood going in there, and we're trying to work things out. It's a long process, but it's not the DSBN's fault either. I just want to make sure everybody knows that. It's all of our faults. We have to work together to get this done. So we're trying to get to that goal, and it's very important to our community, but we're not here to point fingers at anybody.
Thank you. Go ahead, Maria.
Mr. Mayor, I do want to point out that if you look at the funding source for the Battle of Beaver Dams Park splash pad, that's on the assumption that you don't get rid of McMillan. If you get rid of the McMillan Park splash pad, you cannot use development charges for the Battle of Beaver Dams Park. So that would have to be funded by the city.
Okay. You
Sure,
understand?
but maybe the school board will pay for it, but that's all assumptions going forward, so I don't have a crystal ball.
Okay, Councillor Longo, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The switch over from operational cost to capital cost was so fast I almost missed it. But I do have a question since we're on turf fields, and it's for Mr. Holman. If he could give me and the rest of council and the community on the update.
Wait, 1 second, Councillor Longo, we're not on capital yet. We're on deferral, but we will go to capital. You'll, do you want, can you hold that until we get to capital? Because I'll make sure.
Yes,
you-
I will. I'm sorry.
No,
I
no.
kind of broke up there for a while.
No,
so
no, we'll make sure you get to speak on that. No problem.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else on deferrals? Okay, I had one item and I talked to our Director of Finance on, and that's the design for parking lot 5A. It's 50,000, which the director told me that we could utilize parking funding. And the reason I'm bringing this forward, and before I ask for a seconder, is that with what's going on in our downtown, we haven't kept up on the parking lot side, and we keep deferring parking lot. So what I'm asking, this isn't to do the parking lot this year. What's the noise on? We're picking. Who is that? Okay, so what we're asking is, what I'm asking, if I get a seconder and council approves it, out of the parking reserves, is to get this design done this year, so then next year in budget, if council decides to move forward with the parking lot, we've got this legwork done. Because with what's going on downtown, we need to get these, start chipping away in the parking lots. So that's why I brought this forward. Can I get a seconder, Councillor Sentence? Is there anyone that would like to speak to that? Again, we're not doing the parking lot, we're doing the design so that hopefully next year we can do the parking lot. Go ahead, Councillor Sentence.
No, I'll support this. The BIA will be very excited about this, so it's a good call. Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Decker.
I'm so happy you brought this forward, Mr. Mayor. From a business owner who's spending millions of dollars in the downtown and going to spend millions of dollars in the future, parking is the biggest issues, and thank you very much for bringing this forward.
Thank you. Did you want to speak?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yeah, I agree. It's nice to see that this is going to happen, getting the plans ready because we are in desperate need for
So
parking.
what I want now, thank you, I want to get a mover and a seconder so I don't have to vacate the chair. Can you move that, Councillor Sutton? And Councillor Didavitas will second it, okay? Any further discussion on that? All those in favor?
Sorry, just to clarify, where is it being funded?
It's being funded from the parking reserve, okay? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay. Anyone else before I move to capital? And when I get to capital, I'll get Councillor Longo up first. Okay, we're going to move to capital now, and Councillor Longo, you're up first regarding capital now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm back on track. Just a question for Mr. Holman, if he could give myself, council, and the community an update on the status of the turf field in Rolling Meadows and a timeline of when they can expect a contract, awarding of contract, and starting of the project.
Sean Dunsmore, Manager Engineering, will answer that question.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the turf field is 99% designed. We have a tender package ready to go. We're waiting for the budget to be approved so that we can tender it out, and the construction should start April-ish.
Councillor Longo, does that answer your question?
April 2026.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Jeff, did you want to add?
Yeah, I just want to let everybody know that there still are some outstanding issues with respect to having to update a traffic study that the Ministry of Transportation is asking for. So while I agree with my colleague that April is probably the likely start, there are some things that have to be addressed before we go ahead.
Okay, and we can do anything we can help, let me know. Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
Yeah, through Mr. Mayor, just to staff, what's the timeline as far as once it gets all the ball rolling, once it's shovel ready? How long would it take to complete a project like that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there's two sides to the project. There's the turf field and parking lot, which is all kind of as one. And then we're putting washrooms and change rooms in there. The washrooms and change rooms, as you can see in the budget, are to be designed this year, constructed next year, but the turf field itself should be ready to play soccer late in September, October.
Awesome, thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Decker.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Sean. Sean, I just have a question on the turf field. Will there be a running track around the field as well? Because I know the one in Niagara Falls has the turf field and then it has the running track. Is the design have anything like that, or is it strictly for football and soccer?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, there is not a running track around the field.
Councillor?
Yeah. What would be the, obviously it would cost more to add the running track, I'm assuming, around the turf field, and is that something that could be done potentially at a later date if, you know, money appeared magically, or is once the turf field's in, then that's it, no?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the difficulty with adding the track after the fact is the space. Track is, whatever, 5 or 6 lanes wide. We have a difficulty trying to reserve that space for the track while we're building the structure.
Okay. Anyone else to speak? Go ahead, Councillor Sentence.
Yeah, so we're done. I don't have a question about the turf field, sorry.
Okay.
Good job. I just.
You let him off the hook too easy.
I don't know. I just got a couple requests. I have no, I'm not asking for any more to be put in, but I got a couple requests from residents and everything. So I would just like to see if this is the place to do this for, within our road resurfacing and reconstruction or whatever it is, a resurfacing, I was hoping staff, if you could take a look and prioritize Morton Street in Thorold South. It is a disaster, and River Street in Port. Just asking if you can take a look at those. I don't know if anybody's driven down Morton Street in,
Just
Yeah.
make sure that they do the investigation on those.
yes, and, well, I believe Jeff has driven down it and investigated it, so, that one. And I would just like to, and I'm done for the night, actually. I would just like to make sure, with Dave and with staff, that we start a plan on opening McAdam Park up again and working with the NRP on safety and everything. You know, it's February, but we will be looking to open that park again and the washrooms. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, good point. Anyone else regarding capital? I don't see any. So Maria, can you put up where we're at, and then we'll go from there. Huh? No, I know, but she'll show what councils put up. Hey?
Oh, sorry. Here are the changes. They're either a reallocation, levy to levy, or funding from reserves. So the levy, there is no impact to the levy, and we utilize $61,000 in the reserves to fund the added projects. So basically, the impact does not change, 3.49%, pretty much what we indicated it was going to be at the beginning.
Can I just say that 18 should, the number was, that I looked at was 18.4?
18.7?
18.415. 18.415.
I don't think it was. I had 8, okay.
Okay?
Yep.
But that doesn't change anything on the number. It's just to correct that number.
Okay.
Okay? It's now time to, before I get a mover and a seconder to approve it, is there anything else that we're gonna add here or talk about?
You want me to put what we have on the screen so far?
It's all up there.
It's all there.
Oh, on the main. He's gonna put up the changes in the actual motion.
Okay, so we just added 10, 11, and 12. That's where we're at now.
Well, that's good. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Counselor Sentence, Counselor DeRose. All those in favor? I can't see online there, Counselor Longo. Opposed? That is carried.
Okay.
We're done? Yeah. Okay. I didn't expect to be that fast, but anyway. Bylaw. Can I get a mover and seconder for Bills 7, 2026 and 8, 2026? I got Counselor DeRose and Counselor Sentence. And 7.1 is a bylaw to adapt operating and capital budgets. And 7.2 is a bylaw to adopt, ratify, and confirm actions of City Council, special meeting held on February 10th. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Right? There being no further business. What's this one here? I got that, right?
Yeah, this was just if the matter was, wasn't
Okay.
addressed today, so.
There being no further business, this meeting is hereby adjourned at 7:39. And I just once again want to thank staff. And you can see by what transpired in our discussions, there really wasn't a lot to discuss because the legwork was done by staff, and the budget presented is outstanding. So I want to thank everybody, staff and council. Thank you so much.